Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Kellen here with Droid Life. So I've got in front of me Moto G4, Moto G4 Plus. Now, these have been out in India and I think another couple of countries for a little while now, but they're just now arriving in the US. So we're going to start finally taking a look at them. Now, these are important, and even though we don't typically look at these sort of mid-range type of phones, we do with these because Motorola always packs in really great specs, yet sells these at a really nice price. And not to mention the fact that they work on all four major US carriers, which is a huge deal. So the phone comes out on July 12th. Let's talk about it. Here's our unboxing of the Moto G4 and Moto G4 Plus. All right, so when you talk about the Moto G4 and Moto G4 Plus, you have two very similar phones, but you also have two phones that have some pretty significant differences. And so at the Moto G4, you're looking at $199 starting point, goes up to $229 if you basically just double the storage. With the G4 Plus, you're looking at $249 start, and then if you double the storage, that will jump you up to $299. So under $300 gets you a really nice phone. So let's talk about the specs of each. Get a little cut there though, so we can start opening these things up. So in terms of specs, they're obviously mid-range phones, so they're not going to be spec'd ridiculously high, but you are looking at 1.7 gigahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon 617 processors. Those are octa-cores, 2 gig RAM or 2 gig, 4 gig in the Plus. So the regular G4 just 2 gig. In the Plus, you can either get 2 or 4 gig, and that sort of depends on which storage route you go. They both have full HD 5.5-inch displays, 3,000 milliamp hour batteries. You can turbocharge them, which is basically just Qualcomm's quick charge, but you can turbocharge. They have water repellent nano coating, so not necessarily water resistant or waterproof, but they do have that. With the G4, you have a 13 megapixel camera on the back, which I'll show you. 5 megapixel camera on the front. With the G4 Plus, a little bit of an upgrade. You got a 16 megapixel camera with laser and phase detect autofocus, along with a 5 megapixel on the front. And then that's pretty much it. Micro USB, 3.5 millimeter headphone jacks. And then they come in black or white. Then you can customize the backs with shells and things like that. The one other difference, and you can see it right here on the chin, no fingerprint reader on the regular G4, but you do have one on the G4 Plus. So they're very similar, but yet there's definitely some I should say some motivation to want to upgrade to the Plus. Better camera, fingerprint reader, more RAM, and things like that. So there are some options there. Let's dive into these though, or at least open some boxes here. So I haven't held these because, again, when they were first introduced, they were introduced to non-US countries, and we're a US site. So I'll just set those there for a second. Let's see if they put anything interesting in the box. Just a charger. And I do see this is the big puck. So this should be a Motorola turbocharger. So they do turbocharge, just something that's been missing from the G line for a while. I believe they re-released the G3 last year with turbocharging, but initially it didn't have it, and none of its predecessors did either. So that's nice to see. It's sort of a stock feature now, turbocharging. And since this is, a mid-tier phone, they're not getting crazy with the packaging or doing anything really wild there. It does take nano SIMs, so keep that in mind. Let's look at the Plus box just to see if anything different. And nope, still looks like a turbocharger, and takes nano SIM. All right, so the phones in hand, they are going to be very similar in hand. So this is again the G4 left, G4 Plus right. Let's see if I can keep that straight. Obviously there's a way to tell the difference, but so again, 13 megapixel camera here. On the G4 Plus, we have 16 megapixel with phase and phase detect and laser autofocus, I believe is what it is. Yes. So you do have that upgrade there. And there's actually, it's tough to catch this on camera, but you can see the little sensors up there for the laser autofocus. That is not a fingerprint reader there. That's just a dimple. So that's what it looks like on the back. Now the front, this is where you can obviously tell the difference between the two in case you needed to. And that's because fingerprint reader here down on the bottom. Let me peel sticky things off the front. Although the front is always a good reminder of specs here. So laser autofocus, turbo power, fingerprint reader, octa-core processor, 1080p display, SD card slot. Didn't mention that. They both hold up to 128 gig micro SDs, so that's a big deal. On this, obviously not the same feature, so they've changed it up a little bit. Octa-core talks about the cameras. It has 4G, 1080p display, 3000 milliamp hour battery, and SD card slot as well. All right, so in hand, both phones feel pretty nice. I mean, for a 5.5 inch 1080p display, okay, this is going to sound really weird, but initially left, you guys can see that, I believe, on camera, how yellow that screen looks compared to this one. They're supposed to be the exact same display, and I do believe they're LCD displays, so that's a little odd to see that. Hopefully that's just this unit and not a trend we will see going forward. But in hand, they both, they feel nice. They feel incredibly light, by the way, for what they are. They're obviously not going to be full metal, heavy bodies like you see with the HTC 10 or something like that. So they're plasticky, definitely light. But they don't feel large, and they feel like you could handle these in most hands pretty easily. So let's just see if we can jump through any of this stuff quickly. Sometimes this does take a minute. Oops. Skippity skip. Just to show you the software experience here. So, and I'm ignoring the, trying to ignore everything here. Skip. And so, you know, Motorola is known for sort of putting their really light skin on top of Android. I wouldn't even call it a skin. It's basically stock Android. Then they toss in their own sort of set of features. So it gives you that sort of really clean experience. And then you get things like Moto Display and things like that. And I believe this has Moto Display. Let's see if we can get it to interact. Maybe I need to turn it on. I thought these did have it. Maybe not. That's something I would definitely have to look into. But so far, I think my initial impressions are that I like the style of the phone. Obviously, see, it does have Moto Display, and it's supposed to be on. Anyway, I like the sort of idea always of this Moto G line, because they pack in decent specs yet give you really ridiculous prices. But then this one, they've sort of addressed some of the pain points this year. They gave us turbocharging, they added a fingerprint reader on the Plus. They've improved the camera once again. They still kept some of the customizable options, which are these shells. So obviously I just have the black version, but you can buy these shells fairly cheaply, I believe, and sort of change the color on the fly. They have micro SD expansion still. There is your SIM tray. It looks like they are giving you an adapter. So maybe it's not nano. Maybe it's actually micro SIM, and then that comes with adapter. That's interesting. So it will take a micro SIM, it looks like. And if you have a nano, you have to use the included adapter. So, but they're just one of those phones that it's just, if you need a phone or you don't have a big budget, they're kind of hard to ignore just because of the experience they give you. Again, you can see this is basically Google's experience. There's only Google apps really on here outside of the Moto app that's there. So they haven't loaded it up with a bunch of bloatware. It looks like stock Android. It's running Android 6.0.1 already. It'll be interesting to see how quickly this gets updates and stuff. Motorola hasn't exactly been the best at updating its phones lately, so we'll be paying close attention to that. But it's a clean, simple phone. And then it's also just insanely affordable. So here's the camera, and obviously both have different cameras, so we'll want to play to see which one's better, if one is actually good, or if they're both not good, or whatever the deal is there. But you know, you should be able to. Can you twist to capture? Yep. So you can twist to launch just like you have been able to for a while. Loads pretty quickly, seems to focus quickly. I don't know. There's a lot to like here. I'm going to probably make the Plus my daily phone here for quite a while. We've got Moto Z and stuff coming like that. Obviously, we've got Note phones arriving and new Nexus phones, but this could be like a good in-betweener to get us all caught up on this sort of mid-range area of phones. So anyways, we've got them in-house. If you guys want us to test anything in particular, you want to know anything, again, they work on all 4 major US carriers. And that includes Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, T-Mobile. That's everyone. $199 starting point, $249 starting point. They arrived July 12th. Amazon, Best Buy, I believe everywhere, Motorola.com, all that stuff. So anyways, again, if you guys have comments, questions, let us know. Otherwise, we are Droid Life. Peace.